Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Wednesday edition of the Tom Donahue Report here on the Orion Talk Radio Network. It is August 8th, 2012, and no, I am not Tom. My name is Popeye from federaljack.com. It is my news website, and I also do a radio program here on the Orion Talk Radio Network, and myself and another gentleman who is riding shotgun with me today, tomorrow, and Friday will be covering for Tom. That gentleman's name is Mr. Ken Hildebrand, and Ken himself is a host here on the Orion Talk Radio Network. He hosts a show called The Information Nation on Sunday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ken, thank you so much for sitting in with me on Tom's show today.
Oh, that's quite all right. Anything to help out Tom, help out you, help out whatever.
Yes.
That's what I'm here for.
We take care of our own here at the Orion Talk Radio Network. And Tom's on assignment somewhere doing some secret super assignment, probably for some secret super alternative news agency. And he will be back Monday, but he did ask us to sit in for him. And we have a pretty jam-packed show for you guys today. So, Ken, there's a few things I want to hop right into. And you're no stranger to ripping on the government and their police state, things like the NDAA. And I don't know if you saw this. This article came out from RT today. Obama fights ban on indefinite detention of Americans. Obama and his administration are fighting the ban that this judge, you remember the judge decided a couple weeks ago that, yes, the NDAA and its provision of indefinite detention of American citizens was completely and utterly unconstitutional. Well, apparently the dictator-in-chief just doesn't feel that that's right, and he's going to try to overturn that. He's going to try to make sure that Americans can be indefinitely detained. So that people understand what that means, let me explain something that goes on at Gitmo really quick, okay? You get caught up as a quote-unquote enemy combatant somewhere, right? You get arrested. You're a terrorist. I'm doing air quotes, terrorist. They bring you to Gitmo. They lock you up there. 5 or 6 years later, you have some sham of a trial, and you're actually found innocent. They actually say there's not enough evidence to hold you. And you know what? You've been cleared of all charges. You're no longer a terrorist in the United States in their eyes. But we have some bad news. You can never leave Gitmo. Why is that, you say? Oh, well, that's because we have a thing called indefinite detention.
Yeah, they don't have to prove you guilty of anything.
Nope.
They can indefinite. Matter of fact, according to the NDAA, the way it was written, they don't even have to charge you. All they have to do is arrest you and put you under military control, and you are indefinitely detained. No charges, no posse comitatus, no nothing. You can't contact a lawyer. You have no rights whatsoever under the NDAA.
Yeah, what rights? What are rights, Ken?
Though I think they're thinking those are the things that hang off the right side of your body. Rights, the other side is left.
They must, because, the Bill of Rights, that thing's been shredded. The Constitution, that thing's getting shredded. It's almost through the shredder. And the general populace is just very ignorant to even what's going on. Of course, a lot of them still rely on the mainstream media, although good news is that the alternative media, we are finally winning the fight, the information fight, in numbers, meaning there's more people coming to us than the mainstream, but there still is a large percentage of Americans that don't even know what the alternative media is. The only thing they know is, Fox News. Ken, did you see Fox News today? I was told Obama was a bad guy and Romney was a good guy.
That's one of the things that I don't know how many people are aware of this, but all these ads that they're putting out there, not one of them talks about policy, not one of them talks about, what their vision is for this country, to move it forward, to get employment up, to get gas prices down, energy, anything else. It's just one gigantic rip on the other guy. They've got the people looking at a battlefield of politicians, and they're each trying to say how dirty the other guy is. You know, the Obama thing, they got that one ad that they were running with Romney supposedly canceled the health care and the guy's wife died. They found out that was not nowhere near the truth of what was going on with that. And
shocking, a political ad filled with lies.
I'll tell you, I was just mesmerized with that. I said, no, it can't be true. Tell me it's not true.
Right? You were just shocked. It took you 2 days to recover from the shock of that, I'm sure, Ken.
But it's just, if these guys don't want to be president and they just want to slam each other, put them in the octagon, let them do ultimate fighting, beat each other's brains out, and let's get some people in there who have some ideas that want to move things forward.
Ken, you just came up with a solution to the national debt, too.
Yeah, pay-per-view, I've got a feeling that would... I think that would go viral all the way around the world.
$20 a pop, 9 rounds, no leaving, cage match, anything goes. Romney versus Obama.
Yeah, it would be hilarious.
It'd probably be 9 rounds of two pansies waving their hands at each other like little girls in a school fight. You know what I'm saying?
The problem is we have a president right now who can't run on his record because his record is terrible. And we have a guy on the other side.
Well, when you're manufactured by the CIA, Ken.
Well, when you get a guy on the other side who just, how can I put this, came up with Romney Care. And people are kind of looking at that going, well, that wasn't exactly the greatest idea in the world. So you've got two guys. I mean, Romney's got a little bit better record when it comes to finance, but they have nothing to run on. They've got nothing to tell the American people. And everybody's getting up in arms about, Obama. Oh, no, it's Romney. And people are getting ready to beat each other to death in the streets. And these two clowns are standing back just laughing their fannies off, collecting hundreds of millions of dollars.
It's Obamney.
Yeah, Obamney.
Yeah, they're both the same. I mean, it's ridiculous. And you're right. People are actually, again, I've seen people get, emotionally upset about this. I've had conversations. And, I mean, people are, it amazes me the level of people, Obama did a great job. I can't wait to vote for him again. What? Well, would you like Bush? No, I thought he was a putz, too. He was a horrible president and a dictator. I didn't like him either. Just because I don't like Bush doesn't mean I'm going to automatically like Obama. He's a moron as well. They're all controlled by the same people. So you're not really getting any change. I mean, I don't understand how the anti-war left looks at Obama and says, oh, he's doing a great job. Remember I had you and Phil Restino on a couple weeks ago on my show, and we did a veteran special, and Phil brought that point up. He said, this is ridiculous. The anti-war left, and, he's part of Veterans for Peace, and they've even had problems in their own organization going after Obama. Because as soon as he got in, he's the Nobel Prize winner. I don't know why they gave him a Nobel Prize. He didn't do anything before he even got it. Well, you're just being racist, Popeye. Yeah, I'm being racist because some guy got a Nobel Peace Prize for absolutely nothing. And then after he gets the Peace Prize, he proceeds to drop more bombs via drones than any other president.
Well, that's the thing that surprised me. It's kind of like they found this extra Nobel Peace Prize in the closet somewhere and blew the dust off and said, well, let's give it to Obama. And there were a lot better candidates out there. There was one elderly woman who during World War II, I guess, well, she's elderly now, but during World War II, I guess, helped a lot of people get away from the Nazis. There were so many candidates for the Nobel Peace Prize that were better than Obama.
She didn't do that according to Obama. The government did that.
The government did that. Yeah, I know. The Nazi government did that. It's so rigged. Everything that's going on right now is so rigged. But back to the main issue. Can anybody tell me what this guy has done other than take away your rights, allow you to be indefinitely detained in a FEMA camp or down in Gitmo? He gave you ran up another $5.5, almost $6 trillion in debt. And the list is unending, and he can't run on his record. And that's a shame. The American people ought to be embarrassed and just say, this guy's got to go.
All I'll say about Obama's record before we go to break is this. It's hard to run on something that's classified, locked away for your eyes only, and, lead you in 6 different directions. That's all I'll say about that. Wayne Madsen's new book, The Manufacturing of a President. Excellent, excellent read. I just interviewed Wayne a few weeks ago about it. Excellent, excellent read. All right, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We will be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. It is August 8th, 2012. This is the Tom Donahue Report, and I am your guest host, Popeye, from federaljack.com. That's my website and my radio show here on the Orion Talk Radio Network, Down the Rabbit Hole. And riding shotgun with me for the next few days is my good friend, retired Marine, veteran, all-around good guy, and radio show host, Ken Hildebrand. Ken, I gotta say, I think, I don't know, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I woke up one day and realized that I was no longer in the normal world. And this was well after I was awake to what's going on. But I guess, I don't want to say evil, but I guess you could say that the evil, twisted, dystopian future that people had been warning about. One day I woke up and I opened the front door and it was here. And suddenly everybody thinks it's normal that, there's drones flying overhead. That's normal, Popeye. They're there to keep us safe. Really? Really? During the census, I remember when people thought that it was kooky that, the government wanting your coordinates. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist if they think they're going to use the coordinates on your house to bomb you. We don't even have drones in this country. Okay, well, now we do. So, game change. Now what?
You know what I find is funny? People always like to throw that conspiracy theorist out there, and that a conspiracy theorist is this. The shooting in Aurora, Colorado, that was phony. Nobody died there. That's a conspiracy theorist. Someone like ourselves, we look at it and say, okay, what's the underlying cause? It's just a matter of we have questions and we want some answers. That is the big difference, because people, they always like to throw that up, especially the left. They like to throw up conspiracy theories, or like Obama, you're a racist. They throw labels at people, but the hard, cold fact is we want answers. I don't care what you look at, you're going to have some questions, and you're going to want answers. 9/11, there's a lot of people asking questions, and we're getting no answers. Oklahoma City, a lot of questions, getting no answers.
Don't you just trust your government?
No, I don't, and I'll tell you why. You can go all the way back to the first government ever formed, and they have all done something to make themselves wealthier and to enslave the people of their countries. And
wait a minute. You mean to tell me that governments throughout history, you're blowing my mind. You're telling me that governments throughout history have routinely screwed over their own people and taken advantage of them and even killed their own people for political gain or power or money? I'm shocked, Ken.
Let's take something a little more recent. Let's go back to just before World War II and the Reichstag fire. And I've talked about this several times on my show. The Reichstag fire was done by the Nazis, and they blamed it on the communists. The next day, they took away the German people's rights. 9/11 happened, and 2 months later or a month later, they took away our rights with the Patriot Act. Now you've got Obama, who said during his campaign, and this goes all the way back to his campaign, he said, I want a civilian force as well equipped and as well funded as the military. Bingo, you've got the TSA. They're growing by leaps and bounds. You have to look at not just a candidate, and Obama too, he wanted to be all this, we're going to be transparent and all the rest of it. I think what he meant to say is we're going to be invisible, you're not going to know what we're doing. He's never released his actual birth certificate.
I like that.
As far as people know. He has never released his school records. He's never released his passport as to where he traveled in the world. All of this had to be dug up. And people right away, they'll go, oh, well, these are conspiracy theorists. They're crazy. No, these are people with questions. And that's something that the American people have to do now, because our Ministry of Truth, commonly called the mainstream media, will not ask the tough questions.
The shame stream media. Ugh.
They get behind a candidate and they just pump that candidate up, and they throw up a bunch of stuff for their candidate, and the other guy they rip apart.
And by the way, I have to clear this up because I know there are people out there that say, well, Fox News isn't mainstream. Yes, they are. Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC are all controlled by the very same people. Okay? Face facts. Just because CNN says something different than MSNBC and Fox and the vice versa, all three of them going back and forth, it's a game. It's like professional wrestling. They all have the same talking points when it comes down to major issues, whether it be gun control, you losing your freedoms, and how do they present that stuff to you? CNN gets Barbie doll type guys. Fox, not so much. They get like moronic guys that play into that like frat boy, football type mentality, and then they get uber hot women to present you the most horrific things. And then MSNBC just brings you people like Chris Matthews. They're not even trying anymore. I get tingles up my leg. But they're all on the same team, Ken. I mean, facts are facts.
The only thing I can say about Fox News, when they first started, I thought they had something really good, but they turned out to be nothing more than mainstream light. And that's what they're giving you. How do you want the news? You want it light? You want it medium? Or do you want it well done? But
and Bill O'Reilly and Sean Hannity and all those guys, they're so fake. They know what they're doing. They don't actually believe what they're doing is right. Let's get that straight. I mean, Sean Hannity practices something called neuro-linguistic programming. It's real, NLP. Go look it up. He actually can get you to subconsciously accept something or think something without you even really knowing it. Okay? It's all mind manipulation. That's what all that crap is for.
You know what I found was interesting? I happened to watch Hannity the night that he had Dick Morris on. And Dick Morris came right out and said, all these conspiracy theorists that you have out there, he says, the thing we're finding out is they're right. And I thought Hannity was going to fall off his chair. Now, sometimes he has some very good interviews, and I'll watch his show strictly for the interview, and I'll shut it off because I know, approximately where the guest is coming from. But when Dick Morris said that, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. What I am is I want the truth. I want answers to my questions. And that's what I should be doing. Otherwise, I might as well just give up my radio show and go home.
I'm an investigator. Okay, the term conspiracy theorist is a label. It was created by the CIA, who, by the way, you can go research this and you will find out that Langley is responsible for putting out most of these cute little label names that they come out with, birther, all this other stuff. If you remember when bin Laden first died, they were calling anybody that didn't believe the official version of it a deather right off the bat. I mean, it was out there within a few hours. So they already had that written down. Okay, it's not something, none of these news reporters, if that's what you want to call them, these repeaters, none of them have enough brain power to come up with anything catchy like that, okay? So don't think that they came up with it.
Well, it's all a matter of putting a label on something and then either demonizing it or making it the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Where have I seen that done before? Nazi Germany, Stalin's, Russia. Dictators seem to use that, where they know they can't go after the public as a whole, so they break the public up and marginalize them into small groups, and then go after those small groups individually. I seem to remember this being done a few times in the past, Ken. Isn't it amazing that nobody learns from history?
The first question that I had with 9/11, and I'm not a big conspiracy theory on that. I have my questions, and they haven't been answered yet. But when George Bush came out and stated, "Don't believe the conspiracy theorists," I knew there was something wrong right there.
That's a big red flag.
Yep.
That's a big red flag. No, don't believe the guy. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, Ken. I am the great Oz. Pay no attention to the man. Hey, get out of here. Get out of here. It's some little geeky guy behind the curtain. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to break. Stay tuned. More. 3 minutes. Don't go anywhere. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. The definition of the word conspiracy. I feel that I must at least give you guys the basic definition of it, because I think the word is misused, like many other words, are used incorrectly on purpose, and it's put out there to people in society to use these words in the wrong context, so that when you hear them, you have a different response than you should. The term conspiracy, okay, if you look it up in Webster's dictionary, it literally means two or more people getting together to plot something bad. So if, Joe and Bob were going to get together and plot the robbery of a 7-Eleven, that's a conspiracy. Those two conspired to rob the store. So when you hear the term conspiracy theory, right, if you understand the real definition, you know what a theory is, right? It's an idea that has evidence to back it, but hasn't been fully proved yet. So when you look at that and you look at the term conspiracy and you put it together, you realize that what a conspiracy theory is just a theory that two or more people got together to do something bad. Now, that happens every day, does it not? People get charged with conspiracy to, blank in court all the time. Protesters get charged with cops when they're looking for charges. They get charged with conspiracy to commit riot. Two people rob a 7-Eleven, conspiracy to commit robbery. And go look it up. So them attacking the term conspiracy all the time, the mainstream media, these politicians, it's for a reason. They want you to think that the term conspiracy means kooky story and crazy aliens and UFOs and no. That's not what it means. And all the time you'll see these people on like Hannity or O'Reilly or whatever, and if they're even talking the slightest bit of truth, they'll say, it's not a conspiracy theory. It really is a bunch of people doing something against you. Well, that's what a conspiracy is. You're using the term incorrectly. And again, you're feeding into that negative stereotype of the word conspiracy by doing so. So we must alter our lexicon to understand what these words really mean. So if Ken says, I think that the government, or certain people within the government, not the whole government itself, because that's just idiocy. The government itself is actually just more of a tool than anything else. So certain people within agencies, right, conspired to do bad things. Well, that's not really crazy if you look at it that way, right? So if Ken says to me, Popeye, I've seen enough evidence that Oklahoma City was done by the government and that it was a conspiracy involving a pretty large number of people. And, from the standard general layperson, I might say, conspiracy? Come on, Ken. Blah, 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 blah. But if I said to you that the IRS conspired to take all of your money and rape you for your tax dollars, would you have the same reaction? No, you'd be like, you friggin' IRS, I gotta pay my taxes, I hate them, you're right. So why is that hard to believe that another agency would do so?
Well, it's a matter of the heads of the agency or the people within the agency. People love to watch these movies, James Bond and all the rest of them, and it's a distraction, but stuff that, there are people out there that will conspire to do bad things. It's just the way people are. A lot of people say, well, man is inherently good. No, man is inherently evil. And if you get a couple of 2, 3, 4, 5, even two evil people get together. Good example was that guy that was, he was driving around, I think, what was it, New York, and he had another guy in a trunk that was killing people, the sniper. That's two people conspiring to kill people. And they killed a number of people. He had a hole drilled in his trunk where he knocked out the lock or whatever the heck it was, and he was shooting people with a rifle. And it's
Well, you know what? Another example is the Kennedy assassination. The reason why, throughout all this time, that Oswald has always been, no matter what, no matter how much evidence you could present to prove that he is not a lone gunman, the evidence to show that he didn't even shoot at Kennedy, that does not matter. He has to be blamed for that, because if there's anybody else involved besides Oswald,
it's a conspiracy.
By definition.
Yes, by definition, it would be a conspiracy to assassinate the President of the United States.
and then they would have to open it all back up.
Mm-hmm.
Just like look at the Loeffner case too, with where he shot the judge and wounded Giffords, right? He just pleaded guilty conveniently, all wrapped up with a nice little bow, nice little red bow on top. Here you go, and that's it. No more investigation. Court case closed. Records will be. I guarantee you, one of the judge's final things will be to seal the records. And they'll claim national security, or you're too dumb to know because you couldn't possibly comprehend the truth. I mean, you're just a dumb sheep. So shh, little sheep, go back in your pen. You don't need to know this. That's the way they look at us. That's how they treat us.
They just resealed some of Kennedy's records from the assassination for another 50 years.
Yeah, because national security.
Mm-hmm.
Because
the first time they were sealed because they didn't want to burden the family with a bunch of people going through the writing. And then all of a sudden, when they were supposed to be released and everybody's waiting for them, then they go, oh, well, we're going to keep them sealed for another 50 years, national security.
When they killed Bobby, and there were witnesses, like this one, her name was Sandra, I think it was Good. It might be the wrong last name, but we'll just say Sandra right now. There's a great movie you could watch. You can rent it, or I recommend you purchase it, and the accompanying book that goes with it. I have both. It's called RFK Must Die. And when you watch the movie, the filmmaker shows archival footage, and he's got some audio of her being interrogated back in '68. And then he found her, when he made the film, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and he interviewed her, and her story was still the same, that she had witnessed two people running down the back stairs at the whatever it was, the theater or whatever the hell it was, and it wasn't a theater, it was
book depository.
No, not for JFK, for Bobby, the Ambassador Hotel. She saw them run out of the back of the hotel, like down the back stairs, out of a back entrance, and she testified to this, and one of these cops, who I've done multiple shows on the RFK assassination, and I've exposed all this. I played the audio, but they did the same thing. They kept telling her, basically, oh, for the love of Kennedy. Like, I have the audio, and you hear him say, for the love of Kennedy, come on. You didn't see it. You're making this story up. I mean, she's trying to say, hey, I saw two people come out the back, and they're badgering her. Come on, you're killing the family. You're hurting the family. Do you want to hurt the poor Kennedys? Look what they're going through.
That's something else that kind of annoys me. They always say we're doing this for the good of the country. The country can't take this right now. This country has been through a Revolutionary War, a Civil War, the War of 1812. We had the World War I, the Great Depression, World War II, Vietnam, Korea. We had all of this stuff, and now you're telling me that this little bit of information is bad for the country. No, this little bit of information might just be what the country needs to wake them up to the fact that there are some evil people in government. They don't think of that. It's the same thing with JFK's assassination. There are so many questions. How come all of these people? One of the lamest answers I've ever heard was when all these people say, no, there were shots fired from the grassy knoll, and they say, oh, that was just an echo that you heard. Believe me, if you're standing on the street and where the grassy knoll was, that was no echo. They heard that clearly. And how many people in the JFK during that were there are actually dead now, that were witnesses, and you can't find them.
Within like 5 years, there was most of the eyewitnesses, or a major portion of them, had either gotten sick, had weird illnesses, or had strange car accidents, or died mysterious deaths, or they were intimidated. My favorite is the famous scene where you see Kennedy's head get hit and it goes back.
Yeah.
And anybody that's ever even squeezed the trigger once in their life, okay? Anyone can tell you, even physics, simple physics would dictate that, the shot came from the front. Yet the government says the bullet came from behind, and what you saw was gas venting out of the front of his head as the bullet went through. Completely defying physics and logic, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we're going to break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Speaking of the criminality of our government, Ken, did you hear about what happened to independent journalists / I guess you could say regular news journalist now, Abby Martin, because she's an independent journalist. She's had Media Roots, which is a website and alternative media news organization for years with her brother.
Yeah, hasn't she become a what do you call it, on RT?
Yeah, she's actually she went from just being an anchor. She's actually got her own show now. They're giving her own, I guess, television show, whatever you want to call it, on RT 5 days a week now. So that's going to be coming up in like a month and a half. But yeah, she's been a producer, reporter, anchor over there for a while now. And her and Luke Rudkowski of We Are Change, a couple months back when Rand Paul came out and endorsed Mitt Romney, and everybody was, kind of up in arms about it. They were there. In fact, they are in D.C. So they went over and tried to interview him. Now, they've interviewed him before. Never been an issue. Never been an issue whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? Never. Always very. If it's Rand Paul, we love you. Then he's all, oh, I have 5 minutes for my constituency. I'm a great guy. But when they were asking questions about supporting Romney and knowing what he knows about the Bilderberg Group and what he's said on video before in interviews about the Bilderberg Group, so he knows, there's evidence that Romney was there this year. How could he back him? Blah 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 blah. And it was very telling with his silence and his reaction. Now, his reaction to being interviewed like this is he goes back and they wanted to figure out, they knew who the two people were, but they wanted to figure out a way to go after him. And Abby was the easy target because she works for RT. So the congressional, whoever, media dude, someone high up in the bureaucracy, although that really means nothing in real life, but in their own little fake world of bureaucrats, this guy calls up RT, basically threatens RT and says that they'll send the Capitol Police to arrest her. They're gonna screw with RT, this, that, and the other thing. I mean, they were literally threatening to take her press credentials, have her fired, all for the crime of going and asking, Rand Paul some real questions instead of some softball stuff. Now, Abby, she's super busy, and it's hard to get her at a moment's notice on air, as it would be anybody. So I have a little bit of audio I want to play of her describing what happened. And you're going to hear her being interviewed by Luke Rudkowski of We Are Change. And I want you to hear, she talks about getting dragged into a room with the bureau chiefs from Al Jazeera and CNN and Fox News, like there's some sort of, tribunal. Abby, what you did was wrong, young lady. We kiss butt, and we love the politicians. Just very disgusting. Now, her audio is a little weird. It sounds a little echoey because of how they recorded it, but I promise you, it's clear enough that it's not annoying, and you can hear it, and it's worth listening to. So I want everybody to check this out, and then it'll probably eat up most of the rest of the segment here, but I'm going to get Ken's take on it and everything, and I'll give you my take on it, probably at least on the other side. But for right now, I want you to hear this interview. So here, check it out.
Luke Rudkowski here, reporting on yet another incident of the suppression of the free press. This time, it's of a U.S. senator trying to get a journalist fired for asking him tough questions. I'm joined by the one and only Abby Martin of MediaRoots.org and RT. Now, if you remember, myself and Abby Martin collaborated together on questioning U.S. Senator Rand Paul on his endorsement of Goldman Sachs Bilderberg puppet Mitt Romney for the 2012 elections. Hey, Senator Paul. My name is Luke of We Are Change. We had an interesting conversation before about the Bilderberg Group, and knowing what you know, how can you support Mitt Romney when The Guardian reported he was at the Bilderberg meeting?
Hey, Rand. Abby Martin from Media Roots. I just wanted to ask you one quick question. Your endorsement for Mitt Romney, people have a lot of questions about it.
Now, the video was a really big hit online, but the most interesting part of the story happened after the video was already up. Abby, can you tell us exactly what happened to you after that video went online?
After that week passed, the next week, I went into the studios, went into RT America, and my boss said, come in to our office. We need to talk to you. And they just said, what did you do last week, and why are we getting threatening phone calls from the Capitol Police and also the Senate Media Relations Committee at the Capitol building? And I just told them exactly what happened. I showed them the video. I said that it was totally unaffiliated with RT America, and they said that this guy was calling them saying they're going to send the Capitol Police down there to arrest me, threatening to strip not only me of my press credentials, but everyone at the station of their press credentials.
This is just for asking a question, asking U.S. Senator Rand Paul. And can you tell us who these phone calls came from and where they originated?
They were originated from the Senate Media Relations Committee. I'm not going to say the guy's name because I don't know. It was Mike something. I forget his last name, but he oversees that entire committee. And so he was calling to threaten me on behalf of him coming directly from the senator. So this was confirmed to me later, and I'll tell you what happened after that. I actually had to go meet with them in the Capitol building, and it was really intense and intimidating experience. But so yeah, they called RT America, were threatening to arrest me, threatening to strip me of my press credentials and the entire office. So once I explained to my boss and producers what exactly happened, they were just like, doesn't sound like you did anything wrong. If I were you, I would definitely get a lawyer or just meet with him, because he kept following up saying that he wanted to meet me so he can hear my side of the story. And I didn't know how to respond. I didn't know if I should get like a lawyer involved. And so finally I just wrote him back and I said, all right, I'll meet with you. So I had to go to the Capitol building and meet with this guy in a small room, like an interrogation room. And it wasn't just him. It was the bureau chief of Al Jazeera, the bureau chief of CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. All these bureau chief heads sat at a table and just basically confronted me about what had happened and wanted to get my side of the story. They said, did you sneak Luke in? Like, how did you get in there? And I was just like, no, we were registered independent press. All we did was go through the metal detector and just go in the Capitol building. I mean, no one even checked. It was like so lax. I mean, you remember what happened. We walked in there. We even told the woman at the front desk, we're here for this press event down the way. And she was just like, just go ahead. So, I mean,
or they weren't that lax when they found my cookies and water and all the snacks I had in my book bag and made me throw everything out, which made me a little bit mad. But people also need to know we were registered press inside the Senate building. We hold different press credentials because, Abby, you have a Senate press pass. I have different press passes that I won't mention or name, but I do have that magic piece of laminated piece of paper that grants me some access and leeway to get into different places. But we were registered for an event inside the Senate building. Nobody sneaked in. We walked in through security. We were walking towards the event. We saw Rand Paul, and we asked him a question. There's no other way to go around it. We have to ask these guys serious questions. The mainstream media doesn't do it. And these people came at you with full litigious might, verbal and email jujitsu, trying to attack you and scare you and intimidate you for simply asking the question. I mean, it must have been a very scary feeling, because I remember you telling me they were very vague in the beginning about what they were going to do. They threw out all these options: possible jail, possible losing your credentials, possibly hurting the entire RT office. And just because they didn't pick on me shows you that they were looking for any reason to respond, any reason to try to intimidate and harass, and they found a reason. It was because you were working for RT, and that's the only reason they did this. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't nothing serious. They did it just to intimidate and scare you.
It was very scary. It was very, very scary. I mean, I know I was in contact with you the whole time saying, what should I do? Should I come out with the story? The story's huge. I mean, Rand Paul is trying to get me stripped of my press credentials for what happened. I mean, that is insane.
And fired or arrested for simply asking him a question.
Yeah, and I remember telling my boss, I was just like, have him come arrest me. I mean, this is outrageous. This is completely unfounded. And as we know now, there was no charge that they could really do. It was totally baseless. It was completely empty threats, very underhanded intimidation tactics against journalism. DC is just really scary like that. Like, I just had no idea that would happen for what we did. I mean, if we went up to Rand Paul and we were just like, hey, man, we really like you. Thank you for what you do. I mean, just the fact that we asked him something he didn't like, he ran away like a coward with his head down, didn't want to answer the questions. He was having a public press event in that room, and we were there registered. I was registered under Media Roots to ask him questions. I mean, that's why we were there. That's why he was having a public press event there for the Freedom Conference, and that's why we went there. So yeah, it was just really, really intense, really scary, intimidating. And, you know, at this point, I'm just going to come out with the story because I think people need to know who still think that Rand Paul somehow, you know, has to make deals for him to play the long game so he can, you know, do good things later. No, I mean, he's sold out. Like, he's a sellout to the Republican establishment, and he's underhandedly trying to intimidate journalists who confront him about this selling out.
This is a...
No, I'm going to pause it right there, and I'll play the rest of it on the other side of the break. And I'm going to get Ken's take on it, and I'll give you my take on it. But you just heard it right from the horse's mouth. Abby's a journalist. She was threatened, and all of RT, the entire RT America office, was threatened for asking a question. Welcome to the new America with a K. Ken and I will be right back. Don't go anywhere. This is hour 2 of today's live edition of the Tom Donahue Report. I'm your guest host, Popeye, from federaljack.com. That is my news website. I urge you to check it out. Filled with 6 years of research, thousands of articles, videos, pictures, ebooks, and more. Check it out. It's all free. And I am joined by my good friend and fellow radio show host, Ken Hildebrand, and we are sitting in for Secret Agent Tom for the next few days because he is out on some secret agent mission doing some secret Tom stuff that even we don't know about because we just aren't privileged enough to know. So we agreed that we would sit in for him without asking any questions under the provisions that if we did so, we would be tortured in Gitmo. So Ken and I have no idea where Tom is, but he will be back come Monday. And I just wanted to update people because I know the past couple weeks with the Orion Talk Radio website has been a little hectic. We have updated it yet again. Our awesome web team, big shout out to Mr. Tim Watts for really coming through. And he updated, he was up till very, very, I guess you could say early or late this morning, however you look at it. And he all night working on the website to update it. And there's a few things I want to go over really quick. If you go to the front of the site, right at the very front, when you type in OrionTalkRadio.com, it brings it up right in front. You will notice that up in the upper left, it says, listen to Orion Talk Radio live. You can press play on the Shoutcast player right there. Or if you want to navigate around the site and go to different pages, underneath there is 2 options, one for a pop-up Shoutcast player or one for a pop-up Flash player. Whatever you prefer, either one opens up in a separate window and will allow you to navigate around the site. Now, there's 2 ways to check out your favorite hosts here on Orion now. The first one is you go over to Shows and Hosts. Up at the top there, you'll see underneath the Orion banner, it says Home, Program, Schedule, Shows, Host, Archives, Chat, Links. Click on Shows and Hosts. And it brings up the list of all the shows with the hosts here on Orion, a banner with a little bit of a description of what the show's about and the host. And then it's got options to email them, web links to everybody's websites, and links to everybody's chat room for each individual host. Now,
And the email.
Yep, and the email. And most of the hosts can have their own chat pages on their own websites. There's a couple chat pages that I built on federaljack.com for some of the shows. So everybody pretty much has a chat page. And for the ones that don't, they have at least a chat room, including Tom. If you want to go listen and chat with other people listening to Tom's show, if Tom's listeners want to get a chance to sit and talk to each other, there is a Chat Tango or Chat and Go, however you pronounce it, link there. It's just a chat room. You can't listen live there. You still have to either go to Tom's website to listen live, or you have to open up one of the pop-up players, hence the reason I brought them up, because some of the other shows don't have a chat page with a player on it as well on their own website or whatever. So they have a Chat and Go chat room, and I would suggest that you open up one of the pop-up players, either the Shoutcast or the Flash player, and then you can move freely around and go to the chat rooms. Now, the second way to listen to your favorite host and go to their chat room pages and so forth, is to click in the same bar up top where it says home, program schedule. You'll see it says chat. Now, if you click on chat, it brings up a page where it's got all the hosts listed, one on top of the other, and next to them is a link to each chat room or chat room / show page for the host. So it is very, very easy to be able to go check everything out and listen to your host if you choose to do so. Some of the chat pages, the chat and go pages, they're just chat and go pages. If they don't have a player or anything on them, then you don't have. I mean, you don't. Not everybody uses the chat pages. Some people don't even. Some people don't even go to a chat room for their own host or whatever. So you don't have to use them if you don't want to. But the links and everything are there for your listening and chatting pleasure. So it's very easy now to get to each of your hosts.
You know, the other thing I like about the new website is you've got, each host, a lot of them have Facebook or YouTube channels. Some have just a Twitter account. And you can go, and as you scroll down, you can look, like on Tom's got a Twitter account. So you can follow Tom on Twitter. Myself, I've got Twitter, YouTube, Blogger. I also write articles. And I also have a Facebook page, a channel page. So there are a number of ways to follow your hosts. You don't have to just tune into the radio. You can follow them all during the week, even when the shows aren't on, because a lot of people put out YouTube videos, and a lot of people are on Twitter. And it's a way to keep informed with and keep in touch with your hosts.
Very good point, Ken. And if you can't hear your host live, you can, most of the hosts, a lot of them do YouTube videos. Some of them have players on their websites where they archive their shows. I know, like, for instance, if you listen to Tom, most of Tom's listeners, I'm sure already know, you just go to TomDonahueReports.com, that's his website, and he's got all of his shows archived there. So if you miss his show, now live, say 3-4 hours from now, you can go to his website. And what's nice is, if you don't know Tom's website, he's a host on Orion, but you don't, for some reason, you don't know it's TomDonahueReports.com, right? You don't realize that. So you go, well, how can I get to Tom's website? Well, you just go to the shows and host page on Orion, and you just scroll down, and there's Tom, and it's got a link right to his site. And then bam, you can. So if you miss his show live, you can still listen. You can still go and check out his archives, whatever. The point is, the site. Tim's done a really good job. I just wanted to give him a few minutes. Cover that really quick. There's a ton of listening options, by the way, up on the upper right. Not just the pop-up players and Shoutcast players, but you can hear us on TuneIn. If you go to, if you have Winamp on your smartphone, you can listen to Shoutcast there. Plus, underneath the live call-in number, there's a bazillion links for different ways to listen, whether it's a Windows 48K audio stream, the 16K, iTunes, Real Player, QuickTime, regular MP3, even the call-in number, the listen line number with the code to be able to just listen over your cell phone if need be. So there's a ton of ways to listen to all your favorite hosts here on the Orion Talk Radio Network now. And it's very easy to be able to get in touch with them. So
several of us, like myself, I've got all my shows are on my are on the Information Nation, but I also have it if they were to go to YouTube or to iTunes and just type in the Information Nation. I have podcasts up there, and they can download them and use them at any time. Some of the other hosts also have that, so you can download it to your MP3 player or your computer and share it with your friends. If there's a certain show you want to hear, you can always find us. We are all over the place. We're the fastest growing network on the internet.
And the archive section is under construction and will be up to date shortly. And you'll be able to go back to the archive section on Orion itself and pull archives if you want. So because I know some people I've gotten emails asking me, how long before it's done, blah, 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 blah. It's almost done. And so people understand this wasn't like our IT team. Tim didn't say, I'll rebuild the site, I'll pull the old site offline and rebuild a new site without having it built on the side and moving it over. He didn't do that. We had some issues, and the original new Orion site that Tim put together was a temporary thing, and now we're on version, I think it's 3.0, and it just keeps getting better and better and better, and we keep adding things to it. So he didn't pull it down and decide to rebuild the site just randomly. Sometimes things happen, and Murphy's Law kicked in, and we had to deal with it on the fly. And I think Tim's done a hell of a job. So I just wanted to go over the new website because I know people are a little confused, and we just updated it. So it's being updated every couple of days. There's new things being added, but as you can see, it's already within 2 weeks. It's already 1,000% beyond what it was. So kudos to Tim, who has been losing many hours of sleep. And I just so you ladies and gentlemen know, Tim was in the hospital recently, very sick, and he's been fighting off kidney failure, to be honest with you. And he still puts 14, 16-hour days in on the website. So big kudos, big thank you to Tim. All right, we're going to break. When we come back, I'm going to play this clip with Abby Martin and Luke. I'm going to finish it up and get Ken's take on it and more. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Tom Donahue Reports. I'm your guest host, Popeye from FederalJack.com and Down the Rabbit Hole here on the Orion Talk Radio Network. And I am sitting in for Tom with my good friend Ken Hildebrand. Now, Ken, when we went into break, the first hour, I was playing the clip from Luke interviewing Abby Martin, and I wanted to finish that up really quick and then get your take on that. So I'm going to finish up the clip really quick with Luke interviewing Abby, and this is when she gets into actually going into the Capitol building and being brought into this room with the bureau heads and being given the third degree. It's very telling about what goes on in the mainstream media behind the scenes.
U.S. representative. This is a representative of the people trying to arrest and fire a journalist for asking questions. I mean, the story is huge. I mean, it's unprecedented. I worked the Senate beat many times, and I go out to the Senate building and I ask all these hard questions to all these senators, and I had never experienced, or I never went through something that you went through, and it's pretty insane to have Rand Paul, Mr. Libertarian himself, use the full might of any rules and regulations that he could throw at you to try to intimidate you. But luckily, knowing you for a while now, I definitely know you will not be intimidated. I know this will only embolden you. And I know you also have new plans, and you also have a new show that you're going to be working on. Can you update us on what's next for you?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly won't intimidate me. In fact, I would love to see him again. In D.C., there's politicians running around. It's absurd. I won't be going into the Capitol building anymore to do it, but I mean, they're everywhere, so you can find out where these people are and talk to them. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to also clarify one point. The guy who called RT said that I could be charged with harassment as well. That was another charge that they were throwing out there kind of blanketly without any foundation whatsoever. But coming up on RT, I haven't been anchoring for the last 2 weeks, and I won't be all of August because I'm preparing to take over the Alona show. But I'm not going to take over her show. I'm going to make a whole new show undercutting the left-right paradigm, corporate top-down media establishment, where I'm talking about Big Brother watch, surveillance issues, government expansion. I'm talking about things that are censored in the mainstream media, backpage, distorted, and also talking about heroes and highlighting citizen journalists like Luke, highlighting grassroots activists, people who are out there doing awesome things that need to be highlighted and that are not given enough exposure, and also highlighting the villains, the corporate CEOs and the politicians that are doing really messed up stuff. So kind of putting them on the spotlight. And that's the idea for the show right now, so stay tuned for that.
Well, if you need me to question Rand Paul, I could definitely do it. Matter of fact, I will do it, for your show or for not. But I want to congratulate you on your new show. I hope people tune in. Check out Abby on Twitter, @AbbyMartin. You're an amazing human.
I wanted to make sure, just like I played this clip on my show once before, I wanted to make sure Luke got out Abby's Twitter address so you can check her out. It's @AbbyMartin, @AbbyMartin. And what do you think about that, Ken? Well, I mean, Rand Paul having whatever this guy was, Senate Media Relations Committee head, literally threaten her with the Capitol Police coming down, threaten with losing press credentials, arrest, everything, all for having the gall to ask a real question, which you heard when I played the beginning of the clip.
Well, there's two things involved with this, Popeye. One is the fact that, number one, she asked him a legitimate question. And all of a sudden, like you say, you've got the whole weight of the federal government coming down on her for asking a senator a question that people have the right to know. People have this false idea that these are our leaders. They're not our leaders. They represent us. And we, as their bosses, deserve an answer to a legitimate question. And it was a legitimate question. So it shows you that something's being hidden. Something stinks in Denmark, and it's floating over here to Washington. Or maybe it's Washington and it's floating over to Denmark. I'm not sure. The other side of the coin is they call her into a room, and they've got all the heads of the networks in there, and it's like, the Inquisition. Oh, wait a minute. What did she do wrong? Isn't that a reporter's job to ask a question and try to get an answer out of a public official?
Apparently not.
They're hiding so much from the American people. And the news media, the mainstream media would never, they would have gone up to Rand Paul and say, oh, hey, Senator Paul, how's your golf game going, by the way? And he'd answer that without a problem. Or, hey, I really saw you. I saw your appearance the other night. You did a heck of a job. Could you answer me a question? What kind of a tie were you wearing? Who made that tie? And he'd answer it and everything would be fine. But ask the guy why he changed his mind about something, and right away you've got the full weight of the United States government coming down on you. There's something not right here. There is just something is not right. Somewhere along the way, either somebody got to him, or he has been this way all the time and put up one of the biggest shams ever seen in elections other than Obama, because he had the people believing he was behind the people, he was for the people, he was going to this, he was going to that, and then all of a sudden he changes. This is why I say now, the mainstream media would call me a conspiracy theorist because of that. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I have the same question that she has. Why did you change your mind? It wasn't a hard question. Maybe she should have reworded it so he could understand it. Maybe she should have had somebody there who could do sign language. Maybe he doesn't hear very well. But this is ridiculous. And there's no reason for what happened to this woman. And then, like you say, to threaten her with her press credentials, that's basically like telling you do things my way or I'm going to take your livelihood away from you. And people don't think that we're in a I'm not going to call it Marxist. What would probably be a
dictatorship.
Almost. What was Mussolini? Oh, Jesus.
Fascist dictatorship.
Fascist dictatorship. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. And they tried to install a fascist government here before. Unfortunately, they ran into a Marine who wasn't going to put up with their stuff.
Yeah, so they just waited until 1963 and then installed a fascist dictatorship after they blew John Kennedy's head off.
But all of this has got to be addressed. And this is what Popeye and I talked about at the beginning of the show. It's not a conspiracy theory if you have questions. There's nothing wrong with questions. If children didn't ask questions, they'd never be educated. They'd just be the dumb little blobs running around. In some instances, they're still dumb little blobs. I'm only kidding. I love kids. But children ask questions. Why? Because they're curious. They want to know. And people should be asking questions. We have a right to ask questions of our leaders, and we have a right to get answers. And especially somebody like Rand Paul, who is a senator, you respond. You respond until we're satisfied with the answer. Don't do a little song and dance around the question. Respond to it. Tell us the truth. Believe it or not, we're big boys and girls out here. We can handle it. But they always want to elaborate in another direction, and then if you stay on the topic, then they're gonna bring down the weight of the federal government on you. Is that the kind of society we want to live in? I don't think so. I don't want to live in that society. I want answers. I have questions about a lot of things, and I want answers. And if it happens to embarrass a senator or a congressman or the president of the United States, I really don't care. I want answers. And you have the right, as American citizens, to get those answers. You have the right to demand those answers from your representatives. We're going to the bottom of the hour break. This is Ken for the Tom Donahue Show. And we hope you've enjoyed it so far. We'll be back very shortly, and we will have 2 segments left.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tom Donahue Reports. I'm your guest host, Popeye from FederalJack.com and Down the Rabbit Hole, sitting in with Ken Hildebrand from the Information Nation. And Ken, did you hear about this? This insane story of these cops literally tasing a deaf woman who had called 911 for help. And when she came outside to, see the cops, she was, she has a special thing on her camera, on her like video phone type thing, and she signs to it, and then somebody who's watching it is a certified interpreter. They interpret what she's saying, and they talk to the 911 dispatcher, and you hear the dispatcher say, "Oh, the police are here," and she signs back to them, "Okay, I'll go outside." And the whole time, the cops on the way there were being told the woman's deaf. She can't, special needs. She can't hear a thing you're saying. So she's deaf, she's deaf, she's deaf. It doesn't take a genius to figure out what deaf means, okay? And she came out. She was, anxious for the cops to get there. And when they came, she rushed out the door to, run to them for help. Like, please, please help me. And she's deaf. So she's signing to them as she's going to them. And the idiot cop sees this and says to her, "Stop." Now, you're supposed to put your hand up, but he never put his hand out and said stop. He just says, "Stop." Well, she's deaf. She can't hear him. He pulls his taser out and tasers her.
We've had so many incidences lately of people being tasered. I think it's time to take the tasers away from the police department, and they should go back to the old way of doing things. You've got 2 choices. You have a nightstick, you have your hands, a nightstick, or you have deadly force. We've got people are... It's too easy for a police officer to reach for that taser and tase somebody. And
where did conflict resolution go?
Out the window.
Remember that concept of conflict resolution? I know it's foreign now, but it used to be what they did all the time.
Yeah, they used to go into homes where, you had domestic disputes, and they would separate the husband and wife, and one guy would talk to the wife, and one guy would talk to the husband, and they would try to work something out without arresting them. Today, it's almost like, oh, you stepped off the curb when a car was coming, and you're not in the crosswalk. Let's see, first thing I do, I taser them, then I cuff them, then I throw them in the back of the squad car, take them down, fingerprint them, and I charge them with resisting arrest. And it's not all, don't get me wrong, it's not all the police. It's a select few. But how long are people going to put up with these select few damaging the reputation of the 90% or 95% of good, hardworking officers out there?
I'd hate to break it to you, Ken, but I have to debate that. It used to be that, but now it's more like, I'd say 65, 70% bad. And that's because over the past 8 years, between retiring cops and cops getting out because they see what's going on, they've been replacing this purge of good officers with people that they hire of lower IQs. And police departments around the country have been sued by people for discrimination. Because in one case, the guy said, I think he had 125 or 130 IQ. And they told him he was too smart for the job. And he sued, and the Supreme Court said, well, it wasn't just against you, it was against everybody, so it's okay, they can do that. And basically, when the chief of police of this one police department was interviewed, and this seems to be the exact reason why they all do it, he said, look, we had a high turnover rate of officers if they had higher IQs. So we noticed that officers with lower IQs tended to stick around, and you know, the ones that were smarter and had higher IQs tended to, you know, they said, oh, it was the boringness and the monotony of police work. No, it was probably the stuff that they're being told to do, and they sat down and thought about it, and they realized what was going on. So they're telling you, rather than change their policies of doing things like tasing a deaf woman, they'll just fire the smart cops who refuse to do such things and hire cops of lower IQs that won't question it.
Well, you know, there was that one incident in Chicago here where the woman was pregnant, and they wrote her a ticket for parking in a no parking zone, or in a handicap zone, and she tore up the ticket and I guess tossed it out the window, and the police officer tased her. Now, had that been me, I would have said, well, that's okay, but we'll see you in court, and if you're not in court, then we're going to swear out a warrant for your arrest. But no, he tases her. They're getting... One of these days, and it's going to happen, I just don't know when, but it most likely will happen. You'll have an incident like this where they're going to tase the woman, or they're going to tase the husband, and the other spouse is going to pull a gun and shoot the cop in the chest. And now you've got not only somebody that what started out as a minor traffic violation has now turned into attempted murder of a police officer, or the murder of a police officer.
And for what?
Yeah.
All because conflict resolution was not used, and it was escalation of force is now their instead of having conflict resolution as their number one priority, trying to stop problems and solve problems. Now they roll up and right off the bat, if there's an issue, pull the taser right away. That's a crowd control device now. It's not, there is no, it's not, you don't even get the baton anymore. You only get the baton once you're on the ground and you're being tased by one of them, then the other ones pull out their baton and beat you with it.
Well, that's another thing I'm wondering about. I know there's been a number of people who have died from it. In a case of someone like myself who has a heart condition, that thing could kill me. It legitimately could kill me. And
well, then I guess it's really not less than lethal, is it?
No. In that case, now you've used lethal force. And you can't use this excuse that, well, I didn't know. That doesn't buy it. That's just like a couple of guys in the military go out and they wipe out a village, and then they say, well, I was just following orders. No, that doesn't work anymore. And then the one incident that really, really rattles me too is the young guy that you had on your show, I believe it was last week, at the Grand Central Station in Chicago, where he taped TSA officers, and a couple of days later, Julio. And all of a sudden, he's sitting there in the Grand Central Station because he was eating lunch there because he rides the train a lot. And all of a sudden, he's approached by police because the government turned around and identified this guy. And the audio on that is unbelievable. Just the entire treatment of a citizen by, I can't even call them police. I'll call them a couple of thugs. That's exactly what it was. They were a couple of thugs.
The one that had a Pacific reason to go mess with him?
Right, the one that was out in the Pacific.
And you have to listen to the audio, ladies and gentlemen, to get what I'm talking about. But the cop couldn't even speak correct full sentences when he was talking to Julio.
If you've got that clip, why don't you bring it tomorrow and we'll play it for the people.
It's a gem. It really is. I actually had Julio on my show last week, and he said it was weird because he goes to the restaurants in Central Station when he's there to eat. And, he had filmed the TSA thing a couple days before and put it up on YouTube, and it went viral. And he's sitting in the restaurant eating, and he noticed there was a couple TSA agents at the bar in uniform at the salad bar. So he was like, look, this is not a one-time thing. They're still here days later. So he's videoing them with his cell phone, very nonchalantly, quietly, not bugging anyone, eating his food. And the Amtrak cops come up to him and start threatening them. And then one of them, when the one is sitting there after a few minutes, the second one comes up and he's like, "You must be a rookie journalist because you would have known that there's procedures." And Julio's like, "Well, I don't need to ask for a permit. My permit is the First Amendment. I'm a journalist. I can, First Amendment." And
Constitution, I don't care about your First Amendment.
Yeah, well, the cop is like, he said, the one thing he said, Julio's like, "This is America." And the guy goes, "Oh, this is America. I don't want to hear that." Like, really? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that we had, I woke up and we were in, Stalin's Russia. This is ridiculous. They don't care.
One of these days, we're going to have a picture on TV or on the alternative media like they had in Tiananmen Square that time with the guy with a flower standing in front of a tank. And that'll just be, they can just take that image and they can say that's America now.
That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, it's what it's coming to.
Yeah, you got that right. I hear the break music sneaking up on us, Ken. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. Final segment of Tom Donahue Reports coming up. Man, it went by fast today.
Yes, it did.
We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Final segment. I gotta tell you, today's episode went very fast. As it usually does when I hang out with Ken and we get into conversations. Time just flies right by. And Ken, I always like to leave people on a positive note, or at least try to. I don't like to, because we talk about a lot of doom and gloom and stuff and bad things and negative things. And I don't do it with the fear vibe being pumped out, no yelling and screaming. But still, we do talk about rough stuff, to say the least. So I like to at least try to put out a positive vibe at some point during the broadcast. And I really think it helps. And people need to know that, even though there's bad things going on, that we can turn this around. I mean, if I didn't believe that, I wouldn't even bother doing what I do. I'd be making preparations to, run and hide in a cave somewhere. I mean, if it was inevitable that the country was going to go down, why I'm not going to be the band member on the Titanic just playing until we go into the water. I would be actively trying to get onto a life raft. But I still think that there's a chance. Do I think that window is closing rapidly? Oh, yeah. And every day it closes faster and faster because the powers that shouldn't be know that the general populace is waking up and humanity is waking up. Zbigniew Brzezinski talked about this at a Council on Foreign Relations meeting about a year and a half ago. He talked about this, and he said that, it's unprecedented and that mankind is having a political awakening that's unprecedented in human history. And he said years ago, 100 years ago, it was easier to, in fact, Joe Joseph, this little line from that meeting is in Joe's opening of his show, the Freedom Link Radio here on Orion Talk Radio. And you hear Brzezinski say that, 100 years ago, it was easier to fool a million people with propaganda than kill them. Now, it's inherently more easier, or if that's the proper terminology, or it's inherently easier, I should say, to kill a million people than it is to fool them. Because people, with the advent of the internet, people communicating with one another worldwide, mankind is experiencing this awakening like never before. And these people are scared. And that's why you see the police state, you see the FEMA camps, you see the military being trained to go against the citizens. This is all a physical manifestation of their fear of us and our awakening, because we're evolving. And when we evolve, at the other end of that evolution, we are going to realize that they're irrelevant. And that's what really scares the hell out of them, because once they're irrelevant, this holdover society and mankind that they have is gone instantly. That's how fast it'll happen. As soon as people realize that these people are completely and utterly irrelevant.
Well, every time they try to do something, there is some group or organization that's out there protecting the internet, bringing a lot of their sly little bills to the forefront, so other congressmen who are not aware of it because apparently they can't read But then all of a sudden they start looking at it and say, wait a minute, we don't need this. They just tried to do that with some funding bill or something where they hid a whole bunch of gun control in there. And it got voted down. So they know we're watching. And the thing is, more and more people are watching every day. More and more people are looking at this saying something just not right. I mean, who in their right mind would build this TSA? Now eventually they're going to arm them. They've got them in airports. They're in bus terminals, train terminals. They're going to be in your local Walmart or, your local shopping center. They're at football games, basketball games, baseball games. I mean, this is nothing more than the brown shirts of World War II. And who in their right mind is going to say, oh, well, this is to protect you from terrorists, when in 10 years they haven't caught one terrorist? Not one.
Yeah, but they keep catching people that are smuggling a joint here and there, or, they've caught. Listen to me, I'm starting to speak like I have a public high school education. They've caught little old ladies, trying to smuggle their colostomy bag, or maybe trying to, be a homegrown terrorist and take their medication or their nebulizer or something on board. But they never seem to catch, Abdu, whoever, trying to blow up some fictional bomb plot. And when they do catch somebody, it's usually someone like Abdul Muttalib, who's mentally retarded, controlled from the door, wouldn't have gotten on the plane without the help of the State Department. But I'm nuts, because I look at that and go, well, that's kind of shady, because the only terrorists you guys have ever caught seem to always have connections to the FBI or the State Department.
Yeah, it's... I'll tell you, when it comes to speaking, Popeye, I'm glad you and I went to different schools together. But
yeah, we both got public high school educations, Ken.
Yeah, I got one of those certificates that says IR Smart.
IR Smart. That's what they hand out now.
IR Smart. That's the other thing, too, is in these airports and everything else, you walk through, you got a pair of shorts on, you got a T-shirt on, you got sandals on, and they're going to x-ray you, and then they're going to stick their hand down the front of your pants, and they're going to play with your fudgies and everything else. But Abdul's wife comes walking in, or it could be his wife, it might not be, and she's in a full top of her head to the bottom of the floor burqa, and they don't touch her.
That just goes to show you that this is all security theater and who it's really aimed at. That's why when I hear people going, oh, I think it's awesome that, we should profile and, the Arabs are terrorists. So what happens when the government now tells you that you're the terrorist and your friends are terrorists? Then what? Well, I guess it's okay for your friend's house to get raided for no reason at all. I guess it's okay for people to spy on their neighbors now. Oh, my God. I think John next door is a terrorist. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I saw him with, he got 2 50-pound bags of rice from Costco. Why would anybody possibly need 2 50-pound bags of rice? Oh, my God. Homeland Security. He's a rice terrorist.
The whole neighborhood's coming over for chop suey. They're having a block party. It's something for people to think about. Just think about something. Here you have a highly coordinated attack on the United States by a guy living in a cave. Think about that. And if that doesn't raise a question, I don't know what to tell you. Building 7. And if you want to, there's a website out there that's dedicated to Building 7, and you can look it up. Just Google Building 7. So what are we going to do tomorrow, Popeye?
Actually, Ken, I believe you've got a little taster for the audience. Why don't you go ahead and tell them what some of the stuff we're going to be getting into tomorrow? Give them a little bit of an example.
Well, there's this colonel, and his name is Colonel Kevin Benson. He is a retired colonel, and he's teaching teaching modern warfare to soldiers at the University of Military and Cultural Studies at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. And he has ignited kind of a firestorm with an article on crushing a Tea Party insurgency. and I think you'll find that extremely interesting. You can't make this stuff up, because if you did make it up, people would go, "Oh, come on, it's a Hollywood movie." But I think that people will find that very interesting tomorrow, and who he relates the Tea Party to. And it's all, what do you call it? They call it a fictitious scenario. But somehow I don't think so. I think they've got their mind made up on this one. Because every time you see something happening, the guy that shot up Aurora, Colorado, one of the first things, they didn't even get any reports. And they were saying, well, he's a Tea Party member, we think. You know, and it doesn't matter that they came out several hours later and said, well, that report was wrong.
It's predictive programming. It's setting it up. But it doesn't matter whether or not it's truthful, Ken. Remember, the Supreme Court ruled that the mainstream media can go and report something as if it were completely true, even if it's made up and 100% false, and it's not illegal. So just look at the mainstream media after, that judgment and go, okay, and who owns the mainstream media? I mean, look at all the companies. ABC, for example, owned by Disney. Again, the Supreme Court ruled that they can give you fictitious information, put out as real news, and it's not illegal. Disney owns ABC. Disney is responsible for movies like Pirates of the Caribbean with tons of visual effects.
Do you mean there isn't a mouse?
No, I know, Ken. I know. You thought Mickey Mouse was real. I know. It blows your mind.
Killing me here.
I know. I just destroyed your whole childhood. You thought Mickey Mouse was real. I'm sure you thought the government was here to help you.
I have a Mickey Mouse coffee cup. And now you're telling me that Mickey Mouse isn't real.
He'd probably be a better president than we've had in, 50 years at least.
Well,
even Goofy would do a better job. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, one show of 3 down. 2 more coming up. Tomorrow, Ken and I will be sitting in again for Tom, and on Friday as well. So please come join us. Ken, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you today, brother.
It's been real nice talking to you and talking to all the good people on Tom's show.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Ken and I will see you again tomorrow, and you can check me out tonight live on air at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on my show, Down the Rabbit Hole.